So Julie, are there any announcements you want to make?
Well, hot off the presses, because we just had our staff meeting, we did schedule our next Friday Night Live. We're going to have Rabbi Ian Brownstein and his wife come as well. So it will be very fun and musical. And so it is Friday, February 11th. And in today's email, along with lots of other information, there'll be a link to sign up. But that won't be out for a few hours because I have a lot to.
Oh my gosh, I watched him on America's Got Talent. He was cute.
He is so cute and so fun. And I'll tell you.
Did everyone see that? Oh, it was very cute.
They're adorable.
Rhonda.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, everybody.
Rudy.
The Havdalah was adorable.
Yeah, it was.
It was fun.
Okay, anything else, Jewel?
I think that's really it for right now. I really do. Just, pay for January if you haven't. And we appreciate the support for us on so many levels. Just your support of being part of our community, and of course your financial support to keep our classes going. And we're up to full rent now that COVID's over and all that stuff.
Oh man.
So, yeah.
I didn't know COVID was over.
Well, I mean, in terms of from the landlord's point of view, January 1st, we're back up to full rent with all the increases. So, all right, I'm going to mute everybody. Thank you all for being here. And, you know the routine. Unmute if you want to.
Julie?
Yeah.
Did you get Jeff's email about the Israel trip?
I did. And I've been so busy this morning. I will send you the link to the information. I'll actually do it in just a minute.
I'm waiting for you, Rhonda Wenner. I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, I did mention it to Rabbi David this morning at the meeting because we talked about the trip a little bit. And I'm like, Jeff reached out and needed some information about it. So
well, we need to get the insurance. So,
right.
But we're planning on coming.
Okay.
Please God, I'm really hopeful. All right, everybody. Let's get the class on.
Allie, you got to unmute, sweetie. Allie, you're still muted. I can't unmute you.
Okay, sorry about that. Luckily, I wasn't saying anything very important. Okay. Hi, everybody. Missing you over here in Jerusalem. Okay, so we're going to get right to our Mishnah because I know some people want it to be, we want to make sure we get the most out of our time. So we are on the 15th Mishnah. Julie, you can bring it up of the first chapter. And this is Hillel's pair. So previously we learned the previous Mishnayot were from Hillel, Rav Hillel, from the school of Hillel himself. And now we have his learning pair, his Chavruta, his Zu, his other half, Shammai. So this is the first we hear from Shammai, and it says, Shammai Omer, Asay Torascha Keva, make your Torah fixed, make your Torah study fixed, Kavu'ah. So Keva is from the word Kavu'ah, which means fixed, routine. Osei Torascha Keva, Emor Ma'at v'aseh harbe. That's a wonderful one. Say little and do a lot. Okay, and this is easier for some of us than others. V'have b'kabel et kol ha'adam b'sever panim yafot, and greet every single person with a pleasant face. You can translate Sever Panim Yafos in different ways, but really it means Sever is a countenance, and Panim Yafot with or Panim is a face, and Sever Yafot is pleasant. So that's pretty interesting because of the pair. We learned that Shammai in our previous Mishnah. We learned about the relationship between the pair, that Hillel was much more of the lover He was much more of the inclusive person, of the one of the kind of like the one who envisioned Judaism as a total democracy, available for anyone who wanted it, who desired it. Shammai was much more boundaried. He was much more concerned with maintaining the total what's the word, integrity of the transmission from Sinai through the generations. And so he wanted it kind of glatt kosher, whereas Hillel was a man of the people. So it's interesting that Shammai says, "V'havei mikabel es kol ha'adam b'sefer panim yafos," greet everybody cheerfully. So we're going to understand that. But I took this apart. You're going to see that in the in our sheet, we're going to take every part, we're going to deal with every separate part of the Mishnah. But I still think it's just so interesting in our times when we live in such divided times. I still wanted to focus just a little bit on Shammai, on the idea of their relationship. It's kind of simple, but it's so elusive in our world. And that is largely because our world, our society is missing the common denominator that Shammai and Hillel had. And that's what I really want to convey to you. And I think it's very powerful that you can be very different from somebody. You can be you can really feel very, very differently about the world. And you could almost, you could have a distaste or a suspicion a little bit about somebody else's positions. You don't have to agree with people. We can be different. But when there's a common denominator that's at the basis of the relationship, in other words, there's a value that transcends your differences, then you can remain totally committed to each other, even if you believe very different things. And later on in Pirkei Avot, it says that there are there's a machlokes l'shem shamayim, v'yesh machlokot she'ein l'shem shamayim. There's arguments that aren't for the sake of heaven, and they won't endure. And there are arguments or relationships that are for the sake of heaven, and they will endure. And what that really means is because Shammai and Hillel, at the end of the day, they wanted to know what God wanted from the Jewish people. Their desire, their basic value, their primary value, and their hierarchy of values was to know, what does Hashem want from us? So because they had that bottom line value, they could disagree with each other. And I think that that's true for every relationship. If a husband and wife have many disagreements, but their basic value is commitment to the marriage, then they can maintain the differences. If we're committed to a healthy society, then we can have differences. But when we lose sight of the bottom line value, we can get lost in the trees and not see the forest. So Shammai and Hillel had a commitment to the value that was deeper than their differences. And that was the value of l'shem shamayim, which means for the sake of heaven. That means, what does Hashem want from us? Now, by the way, when they died, they had schools that followed them, Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. They weren't so holy. They had a lot of divisions that actually separated them quite a bit. And we know that in those times, there was tremendous, terrible, like worse than today, like terrible sinat chinam, like baseless hatred that ultimately the Talmud tells us was responsible for the destruction of the Second Temple. But their initial relationship, even though they disagreed, they connected on a deeper level to the primary value of l'shem shamayim. And the Torah tells us when a relationship is built on a commitment to a value that is deeper and more important than the differences you feel, you're going to make it. That relationship will endure. So I quoted here Rabbi Rosenfeld, who speaks about how that Shammai was a very different personality from Hillel, and they had many disputes. Nevertheless, I'm reading from the middle, the Talmud attests there was nothing but affection and camaraderie between the two camps. That the Talmud says that. In spite of their many differences, both in content and style, both camps realized the other was simply attempting to understand God's will to the best of its ability, and both teachers and students had nothing but respect and admiration, one for the other. I think that's extremely relevant today, because if there is no bottom line value that's deeper than your political differences or deeper than your cultural differences, then the nature of your relationship is to focus on what divides you and instead of what unites you. And so we've talked about that before, but I'd like to just introduce Shammai with that important point. And then he continues to make three really important points. They're each one of them, I have to say, each one of them is like a good habit, which sounds like kind of like that's all, but habits are, I mean, in social science, in psychology, in all self-help, everyone talks about the importance of good habits. But the thing you have to know about habits in Judaism is there's a concept that the Talmud tells us, and it's interesting. It says hachitzoniut. I didn't put this in here. Hachitzoniut ma'orer et hapnimiut, which means your outside behaviors awaken inside feelings. We've talked about this a lot, but it's a very Jewish idea, and actually it's very grounded in psychology today also, which is you don't wait to be overcome by an emotion or make your behavior contingent or dependent on your inspiration or your emotions at that time. You do the right behavior, and God willing, the feeling follows. In Hebrew, we call it hachitzoniut ma'orer et hapnimiut. Chitzoniut is your outside behavior, wakes up your et hapnimiut, your feelings, your thoughts, your insides. So that's why Judaism, as we always say, the main thing is the deed, just do it. But just do it is grounded in this kind of psychological understanding that our sages gave us, and we continue to learn in science today and in psychology, that outside behaviors lead to internal transitions. So these are three habits, if you will, or three structures, if you will, or three external commitments, if you will, that God willing awaken something within you. And the first one is aseh torascha keva. Make your Torah study fixed. What they're basically saying there is make the Torah the sun and make all your other activities the planets that revolve around what's fixed and doesn't change. This is really telling the Jewish people as they go through the centuries, and don't forget, this was 2,000 years ago. So through all the centuries of persecution and through all the centuries of dispersion and insurrection and all the pain the Jewish people have suffered, and even now in affluence and assimilation, or in the land of Israel, wherever a Jew finds themselves, the sages are telling us, make the Torah the non-changing, non-variable, constant, and make your other activities revolve around that constant. They're warning the Jewish people not to be dilettantes in the Torah. You know what a dilettante is? They do a little bit of this, they do a little bit of that. You know, like I'm taking a culture class, like I'm a dilettante in, like I'm being a dilettante in Israeli culture. I'm like learning about it. I'm trying to understand it a little bit with my pathetic Hebrew. So, you know, I'm doing the best I'm a dilettante. I'm just, you know, we're dilettantes. What this is saying is, Jews, as you go through history, make the non-negotiable aspect of your life your Torah, and all your worldly activities, the other things that you do, how you structure your day, where you live, how you parent, or whatever it is, should revolve around what's non-negotiable, as if it's the sun and everything else revolves around it. And that, I have to say that if I think that I remember I had a friend, we had this, like, we did this one time with my friends, we did this, you know what a 360 is? It's like the feedback form that you give to people and they write, you know, that you ask them questions and they write things about you, and then you get them back and they talk about them. It's, you know, it's a feedback form in companies, but we did sort of like an informal one. And there was a lot of words, and there was a friend of ours, and the word that was chosen the most among the friends was reliable. And later on, she said to me, like, I was very upset that the adjective that was chosen the most for me was this kind of like boring, vanilla word, reliable. Like, that's what they're going to say on my gravestone? Like, I was reliable? Well, in Judaism, reliable is an unbelievably important midah, that you don't make your behavior contingent on if you're inspired at that moment, or if you feel like doing something in the moment, or if you're in the mood in the moment, but that if you are committed to something, you show up and you do it. It's really, I mean, it seems like such a vanilla character trait, but it's really what's kept Judaism coherent and cohesive and with integrity. Even though when you think about it, you have these people who are scattered all over the world. They're persecuted wherever they go. They're never on terra firma. I mean, look, even yesterday in Texas, we saw there's no real stability. So what, you know, and until, you know, less than 100 years ago, we didn't even have the land of Israel. We were kicked out of the land of Israel. Very few Jews lived in the land of Israel. So Jews have never had security. What kept them together? What kept them a cohesive people? Why didn't they just all assimilate out and disappear into the stratosphere? There's never been more than 17 million of them. At the most, before World War II, there were 17 million Jews. Now there's less. I mean, why don't they just disappear into oblivion? Well, you could say that the answer is because the Torah was their portable sanctuary, meaning they no longer had the temple in Israel. First, they had the Mishkan, and they brought the Mishkan and then they built the first temple in the land of Israel, and that was their sanctuary that they all came to from all around Israel. Kicked out, and some of them, not very many, but some came back and once again built a central sanctuary where people from all over came to. It was like a nucleus that kept the Jewish people together. But after the destruction of the temple, there was no nucleus. There was no magnetic center that brought the Jewish people together. The only thing that kept the Jewish people together was Torah, that they all kept the same Torah. But what midah, that's true. But what character trait was attached to that? I would say it's the character trait of behaving in a way that's kavua, of keva, of being reliable, of being unwavering, that if you do something, you're going to do it, even if you don't feel like it, and not letting inspiration or lack of inspiration dictate your behavior. Because I'm sure there were plenty of times I can say in my life and in other people's lives where you're not in the mood to do something. But this idea, I'm a Jew and I do this. So Torah study is very inspiring, but even if it isn't, with the idea that it's non-negotiable, it's reliable. I study at this time, and this time, and I don't miss it unless there's like a pekuach nefesh reason, like a serious life reason. And the Chachamim and the Talmud say, even if there's a pekuach nefesh reason, even if there's a serious like health reason, you should be sure to make it up. Like, it's that important. So what I'm saying to you, it's not just that the Torah kept the Jewish people together, it's that being reliable and steady and unwavering in Torah study and in mitzvah observance. And that's what kept the Jewish people. We wouldn't be here today without keva, without reliability. So the idea is that the Torah is the sun and that everything revolves around it. Now, when you have something that's non-negotiable for you, let's say you have diabetes and you have to take insulin, lo aleinu, right? So, right, I know a few of you, one of you at least has diabetes, so you have to take insulin, right? So that's non-negotiable. So there's a really good story that Dr. Abraham Twersky, Alav Shalom, that he tells that he worked with people with addictions, terrible addictions to alcohol and drugs and gambling. And he told the story of a doctor, a big doctor, who told Rabbi Twersky, that he regularly attends AA meetings. Dr. Twersky said, "How many meetings do you attend?" He said, "I attend 3 meetings a day." And Dr. Twersky says, 3 meetings a day, but don't you have office hours? He said, "I make my 3 meetings a day and I make my office hours around them, because if I don't have my 3 meetings a day, I'll drink again and I won't have an office at all." So he understood that at the nucleus, the sun of his behavior were his AA meetings, and his office hours would have to revolve around them, because without them, he would have no office at all. So this is what the sages are telling us is how we should treat our Torah. I think it's very important. I quoted an Avos from the 2nd chapter. Julie, just move it up a little bit. Which is very famous, says, "Do not say, when I have free time, I will learn, lest you not become free." I have to reiterate. Yeah, thank you. I have to reiterate that because we all do this. We say, when this condition is met, I'll X, and you can fill an X with anything that you don't feel like doing. I'll stop drinking. I'll stop watching so much TV. I'll lose weight. I'll start exercising. I'll learn Torah, right? So if a human being says, when this condition is met, I'll start doing this. Like when I have more free time, when I retire, when I start working part-time, or when I feel a little bit better. We all do that, but the reality is, we know that unless we put a value almost in a position of the sun, where it's not negotiable, where it doesn't rotate, where it's non-variable, and we schedule everything around that, then usually the goalpost just moves forward, meaning the reason that we can't do it just becomes another reason, which becomes another reason, which is why I've never exercised, because, my goalpost, I'm so terrible. Don't give me advice. I don't want advice. So the goalpost just moves forward, because I say, like, when I'm done with Ulpan, then I'm going to start my coaching practice, right? Whatever. So the goalpost just moves. This is incredibly important, because we don't usually, especially in the younger generation, but we don't usually prioritize the right things. I do have to say that it is important to remember, and it's hard for us to truly internalize this, but it says, the Talmud tells us that our parnassah, that the money that we're going to make for the year, is predetermined on Rosh Hashanah. That it says in Rosh Hashanah how much money we're going to lose, how much money we're going to make. And so even though we have to make our effort and go to work, the amount of money that we're going to get through various means is predetermined, the Talmud says, on Rosh Hashanah. What's not predetermined is our ma'asim tovim, our good deeds, and the Torah that we're going to learn. That's up to our free will. That's up to our free choice. So what we usually do is, obsess about what's predetermined and belittle or make small what remains within our free choice. So even though our parnassah, what we're going to make financially, is predetermined, but our mitzvahs and our Torah is up to our free choice and is not predetermined. We'll put our whole headspace into what is predetermined, how, our businesses, and we'll kind of, deprioritize the things that Hashem gifts us with, deciding for ourselves through our own free choice how much we're going to emphasize them. And there's a sweet or whatever, a telling story about a Rebbe who goes to one of his Hasidim who owned a shoe factory, and he says to one of his Hasidim, "I understand, young man, that people put their feet into shoes, but why are you putting your entire head into shoes?" So most of us in this culture put their entire head into their shoes, metaphorically. And it is important to remember, even though it's very hard to internalize, that is predetermined on Rosh Hashanah. So the point is so just to wrap up the first Mishnah, and if you have thoughts or questions or insights, write them down so that when we get to the end, you'll remember them to say them. But just a couple of main points is reliability, unwavering, integrity is not only is unbelievably important, but it's fair to say that it saved the Jewish people. It's probably the character trait that saved the Jewish people, because we say Torah has kept the Jewish people alive and surviving. But what do you mean Torah? It means the commitment to make it central and non-negotiable, and not contingent on, when this outside variable is met, I'll get to it. So, and I do want to just validate. I really do. I want to acknowledge the group who comes every Thursday, and I know a lot of you come to other classes. Kavu'ah. You can use that word kavu'ah. You could say, no, every Tuesday night or whatever it is, every Monday morning or every Sunday morning or whatever it is, I go to this class kavu'ah. I exercise at this time and this time kavu'ah. What that concept of it's fixed and I revolve other things around it is the behavior, is the habit that the sages here are telling us is so holy and so critical. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. Amor ma'at va'aseh harbe. Say a little bit. Under promise. What is the word? Under promise and over. What's the word? Over deliver. Over deliver. Under promise. We're actually not supposed to promise at all, but let's just say under promise, over deliver. Don't be a person who says, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then you just do like a little bit of it. There are three figures that we can learn how to do this and how not to, and what not to do. So our first one is the father of monotheism, Abraham himself, in Vayera, in Parshas Vayera, when he tells the three malachim, the three angels who are dressed as vagabonds, who are coming to tell Sarah of her impending pregnancy and the birth of Isaac, but they don't know that. They just know that there are three vagabonds. That's all they know. And Avram says the famous words, I'll fetch a morsel of bread and do sustain your hearts. I'll fetch a morsel of bread, and then proceeds to present them with cured meat and beautiful breads and cheeses. I don't know exactly how that works. Maybe it was cheese and the meat or whatever it was. But the idea, we learn from that. We literally learn from that. Say you're going to do a little and do more. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. The very first overpromiser, underdeliverer in our Torah was Ephron. Ephron, Rabbi Yisachar Frand calls him the very first used car salesman. And who was Ephron? Ephron was the Hittite who sold the Ma'arat HaMachpelah to Abraham when Abraham wanted to bury his wife Sarah after Sarah died. He didn't want anything given to him. He wanted to pay the kesef maleh with like real currency. He wanted to pay for the burial plot, which is now we visit all the time, which is in Hebron, which is called the Ma'arat HaMechpelah, the Cave of Doubles. It's very interesting. It's an amazing place to visit. And Ephron says, no, don't worry, Habibi, like sweetie pie, don't worry about it. I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you the field and the cave within it. In the presence of all the members of my nation, I'm giving it to you. Right, and I didn't include the rest, and I forgot to quote where it's from. It's in the Parshas Chai Sarah, where all of a sudden, Avram says, Anna, I don't want it for free. He doesn't want it for free because that'll be held against him in the future. I want to pay in real cash, like non-negotiable currency. And Ephron says, okay, all right, what's 400 shekel between me and you? And proceeds to tell him in an outrageous sum of money. There was around this time was the time of the Hammurabi codes. I don't know if any of you have studied the history of the Hammurabi codes, but it's so interesting. It was around the same time in history. And it says that around that time, like the average, I don't know, yearly salary or whatever salary, so to speak, was like 8 shekel or something like that. So it was an astronomical amount. And so in the end, Ephron demanded an enormous amount of money from Abraham, but it started with, I'll give it to you, and wound up, asking for an outrageous amount of money. And so we know how to be, we know how not to be. And also, it's interesting because God himself tells Moshe, tells Abraham when he's promising that Abraham is going to go into exile and his people are going to go into exile and they're going to be enslaved and they're going to ultimately be redeemed. Also in the book of Genesis, God says to Abraham, and also the nation that they will serve, meaning Egypt, that the Jewish people, that the Bnei Israel will serve, I will judge. Okay, the word judge is actually 2 little letters. It's Dalet Nun, Dan. I will judge. It's a tiny little word. And the Talmud goes on to say, and commentaries go on to say, I'll judge that little tiny, I'll judge it. Well, what does that mean? That means all the 10 plagues and all the enormous things that happen and the splitting of the sea and bringing the Jewish people out and closing the sea on the Egyptians and bringing them, the massive things that went on and the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai and it's all wrapped up in this little word. I'll judge it. I'll deal with it. So we really see that it's very important to say little and do much. But the question that we could ask is, okay, that makes sense. But why not say what you intend to do? Why not say, okay, let's say Julie's not feeling well. Okay, I hope you're well and healthy, Julie. But let's just say, in theory, Julie's not feeling. Julie, I'm going to come over. I'm going to start with fish. I'm going to make you tons of dips, and I'm going to make you French bread, and I'm going to make you, oh, she's vomiting, right? Right. Let's just say whatever. I'm going to make you this and that. I'm going to make you this like souffle, and I'm going to make this gorgeous, just like, if I intend to do it, or like, let's just like bring it down a little bit. Why don't you just tell someone, okay, I'm going to be there and I'm going to, help you, and I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to get you to the hospital. I'm going to take you to your appointment. I'm going to wait in the car. And when you come out, I'm going to be waiting for you. I'm going to bring you back to your house. I'm going to get you set up. I'm going to get your groceries. Why can't we say that to a person? Julie, go down, because I think this is really beautiful. This is just a level of sensitivity that I think is beautiful from Rabbi Yochanan Zweig. He says,
I was only vomiting, Allie, because if I don't feel good, I don't want to eat, not because of your cooking.
That's true.
I would
Okay,
eat
fine.
it all. That was it.
I thought it sounded good.
It
Okay,
did sound good when I feel good.
I would never cook that much for anybody, even myself or my home. Brenda would do it. She's here. She cooked that. Okay, this applies primarily to what we do for others. When you offer help to your fellow, don't stress how much you're doing for him. Rather, downplay the amount of effort you are making. The more the recipient feels you're putting yourself out for him, the more awkward and uncomfortable he'll feel. Kindness at its highest level is not helping others in order to feel you performed great deeds. It's helping others so that they are most effectively helped. True kindness means making your guest not realize the effort you are putting in. By the way, I think it's really annoying when a hostess makes, or a host makes a gorgeous meal and you say, this is so amazing, you worked so hard, and they say, oh, it was nothing. That's also annoying. I hate when people do that. I don't know if you do that, but I think it's really annoying. But you do want to make him feel you've done nothing out of the ordinary, or better. Are you kidding? It is such a pleasure to have you at my table. Thank you. I'm so honored by your presence. I'm so happy for your company. And this is symbolized most profoundly in the mitzvah, one of the Taryag mitzvah, one of the 613 mitzvah, which is to escort a guest upon his departure. That when a person leaves your house, you are obligated, you are privileged to, but obligated to walk them to the door. And by the way, privileged, obligated, when we talk about the mitzvot as being kavu'ah, let's say you don't really like your guests, or they're annoying, or they outstayed their welcome and whatever, you don't feel like walking them to the door, or it's not so important, oh, they don't really need it, or whatever. We don't make it's probably one of the most profound kind of understandings of what Jewish law is it's not about if we're inspired to do it, if we're in the mood to do it at that time, it's the right thing to do. But in this case, what makes it so the right thing to do is when you walk someone to the door, you're conveying to them, I'm so sad you're leaving. Like, are you kidding? It's so amazing. You did me the favor. Like, of course I'm going to walk you out. And, we always in class, we always used to give the example of like, if anyone was blessed to have loving grandparents that, loved them and were very committed to them, you know that like they would walk you. Like I remember my grandparents lived in Queens and we lived in Boston, and they would drive they would drive and or we would drive to them, and when we would drive to them, they'd come out and and like roll down the window, and until we were leaving, they were like with us and they were waving to us as we were pulling away. It's conveying, you did this for me, like you did this for me. So say a little, do a lot, and don't even say the full Megillah of what you're planning to do, because that makes a person feel awkward. So those are some beautiful insights into say a little and do a lot. And our very last one, and then I want to open it up to the group, is V'have makabel et kol ha'adam b'sever panim yafos. Greet everybody cheerfully, which is interesting from Shammai because that wasn't really his character. And I do want to say something about that, just one point about it being out of his character. First of all, just because he was more of a purist did not mean he wasn't a loving person, but I think that's not the main lesson. I think the main lesson for us is there are some people who have a very easy time with certain things. And when they do that good thing, it's still a very, very good thing. But if you do something that's hard for you, it's an even more amazing thing. So if you're not inclined toward acts of kindness, if not speaking negatively is very hard for you, if you're not inclined to do something nice for somebody, if you're not very generous with your money or whatever it is, and you do it anyway, how much more beloved is that? So we should never take the things that we're sort of like apathetic or lazy or resistant to doing and think that, that's just not our thing. In fact, it's more beloved when we overcome it. It's almost as if he's telling himself, Shammai, telling yourself, make sure that even though you're this type of person, have done as kol ha'adam, the sever panim yafot. Greet everybody cheerfully. A couple of things that I want to share about this. Again, it's easier for some people than others. Smiling is easier for some than others. Some people are natural smilers, others aren't. But we've talked about this before, but I think it's so powerful. Now we live on Zoom. So, Zoom is a new reality where you can see yourself. I can see myself talking, and I can see you and you can see you. But in real life, it's so hard to do with a mask on. Yeah, maybe when we open it up in 5 minutes, so we can talk about Sefer Panim Yafos while in the midst of Corona, COVID. Everyone says Corona here. I know it's COVID there, but so I can see me. But in real life, if you remember what real life is, you can't see you. You can see your hands, you can see your body, you can see everything except for your face. And we talked about this a lot, but it needs to be said again. The idea that your smile, your face, your expression is the one thing that you don't see pre-Zoom, because it's not really yours. It belongs to everybody else. It's kind of public property. It's contagious, meaning my expression, my countenance, my sever panim, the look on my face is literally contagious. And I read this in a coaching book and that stuck with me. Maybe I won't even say it right. I didn't write it on this thing, but it was something like this, that people, I'm not going to say it right. I'll try to find it. People feel about you the way you respond to them. I don't think I said that right. But in other words, we always say, like, I don't like her, she's this, or she's not my type. So we emit an energy, but the way they act toward us is based on what we're putting out there toward them. It's very interesting. In fact, if you did, I gotta find the real quote, because I don't think I said it right, but if you really were intellectually honest, you were emotionally honest about the people. Yes, Marilyn wrote, people respond to the way you make them feel. That's for sure. It's really the same. But if people that you don't like, if you were honest with the energy you were emitting to them, like through your expression, you might discover that one of the reasons they act in an unlikable way toward you is because of what you're emitting to them. So the idea that my face isn't really mine, that God created me in such a way that it's the one thing that I can't see, because to a large degree, it belongs to other people. A smiling face makes someone feel loved, noticed, attended to. A phobisina punim makes someone feel undervalued, uncomfortable. So the world is going to mirror back what you show it. The world is going to mirror back what you show it. Julie, just go down a little bit and then we're going to open it up to the group. Just to the bottom, I think I quoted something that I thought was really beautiful about smiling. When we greet someone, we're supposed to smile at them, right? Sever panim yafos basically means to smile. Smiling exhibits our kindness and openness to relate to another person. If you think about it, like, there's nothing that my hands do, or, I mean, I guess I could hold your hand and I could give you a hearty handshake. But like, not really, like, there's nothing my ears do or my nose does. Even my eyes, which are called the windows to my soul, it's kind of not really true. The only external organ that indicates I'm interested in you, I'm open to relating to you, is your mouth, is your teeth. There's a lot of Kabbalistic that I'm not equipped to talk about, but like about teeth, that they are the only, that literally they are, the teeth and the lips are the external organ. Is it organ? I don't even know if you call them organ. That is an indicator, that is the indicator of receptivity to somebody else. When I frown, and Sue is right. Sue Gottlieb said, well, what are we supposed to do in COVID? I mean, it's like, So this is a very big issue. This is one of the reasons that it's so important that the people are suffering so much with mental health. One of the many reasons. One of them is the lack of interhuman contact. Why? Because correct interhuman contact shows I'm receptive to you, largely through one's mouth, which is now being covered. It's a very, very big problem. When I frown, I close my mouth tightly. I hide my teeth. I'm saying that I do not wish to open myself or my wisdom up to anyone. But when I smile, I say to my fellow man, yes, I want to get to know you. I want to share my wisdom, my insights, my personal contributions to this world with you. I'm showing you my teeth, the window to my world, and my wisdom. I don't know where the wisdom part comes in. And I want you to partake in what I have to offer. Okay, I don't know how much I love that, but the idea that the mouth is the indicator of openness and receptivity to another person. And this I loved. I found this from Dennis Waitley, who is a motivational speaker. He wrote, a smile is the light in your window that tells others that there is a caring, sharing person inside. So what you're going to notice about these three things, and then I want to open it up to the group: receiving everyone with a cheerful countenance, saying little, doing a lot, and making your Torah study fixed. They're all external behaviors. They're all decisions that we make in the realm of chitzoniut, in the realm of our actions. But what do? They awaken inside of us some very powerful things. They awaken inside of us tremendous reliability and commitment and integrity and openness to other people. But while those are more internal character traits, they're awakened by external commitments. And I really honestly think that that is Judaism in a nutshell. Judaism in a nutshell is let your outside external commitments not be dependent on your mood. I mean, we all have bad moods when we just stay home and do nothing. Of course, we're human, but in general, that we don't make our good actions dependent on our feelings even. Rather, we're committed to behaviors, and God willing, they awaken deeper human emotions and character traits within us. But even if they don't, we do it anyway. So we have make your most important, your Torah study. I think we can also extrapolate, make your biggest values, your deepest values, kavu'ah, make them fixed, make them like the sun, and everything else revolves around it. And say a little, do a lot, and don't tell people at length what you're going to do for them, even if you wind up doing exactly that. And receive everyone, regardless of what you think of them, regardless of your mood, with a cheerful face. Even in COVID, I think you can even tell a smile under the mask. Okay, so let's open it up with our last 10 minutes for any thoughts that anybody has.
Allie, I love what you said.
Oh, hi, Stace.
Hi, Allie.
I didn't see you at the beginning.
Yeah, I love what you just said about a smile. It's so true. And it's funny, I've been very aware, even someone I know who I speak to pretty often, I can sense on the phone that she always ends her call with a smile. I can feel it through the telephone. And I don't know how she does it. I love that. And I sense it. And I've been trying to force myself also to end a phone call with a smile. There is something just happens. And one can feel that. And I love that. But it's so true how, if someone's frowning, if someone's smirking, you can tell right away what kind of mood they're in. If my boss at work is frowning, I know not to walk into the office. I know my question will not get answered properly because they're in a bad mood. And it's just, it's so interesting. I've never honestly thought how important a smile is.
Mhm, mhm.
One is so much more approachable when they're smiling. It's, thank you for saying that. It's really
Mhm,
lovely.
mhm, mhm.
So thank you.
Beautiful. I wonder, I'm just curious, what do you think, what's happening with your friend where you feel her smile? How are you feeling it?
You know, she'll say at the end, you know, have a good day. And I hear the smile. I feel it. Or, you know, maybe if I even just say, you know, have a good day. There's something different,
Yeah, beautiful.
you know?
I love that. That's inspiring. I'm going to remember that. Bye, Marilyn. Okay, who else? Okay, someone else had something they wanted to say. Okay, hi, Rhonda and Linda. Okay.
We you talk about smiles. We were out walking the other day with our masks on in our neighborhood, and somebody walked by and said to me, total stranger, "You have a beautiful smile." And I said, "Thank you, so do you." But it made me smile. It just out of the clear blue. And obviously she couldn't see my smile because I had my mask on. But it really lifted my spirits.
I love that. What do you think was her intention? Like, what was that? What was that about? That's so sweet.
I think it was just to spread some joy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she was wearing a mask also. So, but it just brightened my day, and it made me smile.
Mhm.
You can see people's eyes crinkle up. So you
Yeah.
know they're smiling.
I want to ask you guys though, so Stacy and Rhonda talked about how like life affirming and like hopeful and healthy it feels to feel that between someone. But I'd also, and at the same time, I want to also like reiterate the idea of obligation, that it's not just, that, it could be that Stacy's friend is just by nature super sweet. And that person who passed Rhonda happens to be really cool. But when we take it from like, this is my natural disposition to, this isn't about me. This is something bigger than me. This is something that it's not about my natural temperament. It could be that Stacy's friend and Rhonda's, like the person Rhonda passed, are just really cool, nice people. But when we understand that even if I'm not, and I just want to say that again, because I think it's so illustrative that this teaching is from Shammai. It's not from the smiler. It's not from Stacy's friend who's Hillel, right? It's not from the nice guy. It's from the one who probably struggles temperamentally with being that open person. So that reinforces in my mind this idea of smiling is an obligation. It's not just if I happen to be blessed with a nice temperament or I'm in a good mood or I want to spread a little joy. It's actually something that is deeper than how I'm feeling at the moment. So I think that's also very
Rabbi
important.
Katz at Chicago Torah Network, he always talks about smiling. He's written little Torah minutes and smiling. It's so important to him.
And he always smiles, and he has so much service in his life. I
Yeah.
mean, he has so much struggle, always smiling.
He's
Yeah,
always
Linda, hi.
Hi there. I love this and I love everyone's comments. Thank you so very much. I have a question about smiling. For me, they're smiling and they're smiling. And they're smiling with the mouth, and then they're smiling with the mouth and the eyes. And I don't feel like I'm smiling unless it's coming through my eyes also. And if it's coming through my eyes, my mouth doesn't necessarily have to smile because the eyes will almost overpower the mouth. It often does happen the same way, but I can smile without using my eyes, and it looks so fake. It's like when someone wants to take my pictures, they smile, Well, if I'm
Oh,
not
right.
feeling energetic or if I'm not feeling whatever, I hate the way my smile looks.
Mm,
But I do know if I'm talking to somebody and I really want to, I do say, when I say goodbye to somebody over the phone, I've started to smile at the end because I notice there's a different lilt in my voice. And then I notice there's a different response in the voice of the person that I say goodbye to. I think they feel it, and it's different. But
mm,
it's the eyes, I think, that are important too.
hmm.
I wish I
That's
could turn that
interesting.
on more.
So you're saying that eye smiling is like a smile that radiates like from really within, and it's like that's a real smile versus
That's a
sort
real
of,
smile,
yeah.
as opposed to like,
Smile, right?
yeah.
Right, for your passport photo that you're never gonna use. Okay, who else? You are gonna use. Hi, Leslie.
Hello. I was going to say that I think it's an obligation because it's contagious. You know, that's like the saying, but it's so true that if there's times when I'm in a bad mood and, run into someone and they're smiling at me and, their whole disposition is smiley, and then like it changes my whole mood. And then I pass that, then you just naturally pass that on to the next person. So I think it's like, there's a reason beyond, like it's a societal reason that it just
Yes.
helps and so on and so on and so on. It's such a great, it just starts like a whole wave.
That's right. That's right. And I really do believe, and I think I've read this, and I think it's just so powerful that it's the one part of your body that you don't see because it's the area, it's the part of you that is responsible for other people. Like, think about it. Like, what in your body is I mean, as long as you're not hitting someone or getting involved in someone's space, your body is, but your expression, like you said, it's social responsibility. It's almost moral responsibility because it's contagious. I love the word responsibility. It's exactly right.
I think we should start something because we all know the world needs this right now so badly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I just
Starting
wanted to
at
say
home.
something that I was
Hi,
just going to say
Judy.
that even, hi everybody, that even even with masks, eyes work. And I was surprised, but I was subbing recently and I just used my eyes and they got the message. So eyes is another way that you don't see it, but it definitely communicates.
Agree. Totally agree.
That's interesting. Renee, this lesson is so true, but can only be exercised about one's own self. I can't see what you're saying, Renee. Can you share it? I couldn't really get what you were saying.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, what I mean to say is that all of this is really true. And I thoroughly believe that your face expresses your inner feelings and how people react to you. But there can be people that you love very much who are always crimped. I don't know how to spell that.
Mhm.
And you like to bring it to their attention. And I could repeat this entire lesson to them and they would simply respond with being defensive or make excuses for how they look or say I'm wrong or they're tired or they have so much on their plate or whatever. And it will not get to them and make them be any different than who they are and how they express themselves. And it's frustrating. I can remember my mom always saying to me, "Oh, Ruchala, you're so pretty when you smile." And, I didn't always smile. And I have to say, I don't want to mention the family member, but it's really not being pleasant being around this person I love so dearly because I don't even want to say the gender, but this person does not ever have or rarely has a very engaging look on their face, even in the presence of others beside me. And I've given up, trying to pass that lesson along. It's just the way it is. So if she attended.
I hear you, Renee, and it's painful and it's very hard. That is why the Mishnah doesn't tell us to do that. It only tells us to take responsibility for our own Sever Panim Yafos, because we really can't control the reactions of other people. So, I mean, really, Renee, it's kind of illustrative that it doesn't say, share with the world the importance of Sever Panim Yafos, because we really can't, we can't force it or even encourage it for another person. We can only like model it ourselves and hope that the opening of our mouth creates some sort of receptivity on their part, but we can't control if it does or doesn't, which is really why the Mishnah doesn't tell us to try to influence others to smile. But it's painful. It's painful. Sometimes I've been that listener, and my husband will always say, you know, you can't walk into a room and, you know, and bring the room down. Right? Sue Gottlieb, our favorite quote is, Mom controls the weather in the house. Sue made me a magnet. We had that phrase and Sue made it into a magnet. But for anyone who has little kids, they'll for sure testify, Mom controls the weather in the house.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
My weather was pretty cloudy when my kids were little.
Yeah,
I wish I had known that. But you know, one thing, you know, my son-in-law, Zach, he has always walked us out the door. And, you know, I always just thought, wow, it's a really nice thing that he does. But, you know, of course, now I've learned that it's for a reason. And he always would say, thanks for coming and thanks for leaving.
He got that, Sue, he got that from Rabbi Eisenbach.
Oh, really? Like that. Rabbi Eisenbach.
Thank you for coming and thank you
for leaving. I used to have a thing on my bulletin board from Ed DeBevics. Remember Ed DeBevics?
Yeah.
And it said, eat and get out.
Right. Thank you for coming and thank you for leaving.
Thanks for leaving. See, and now we're all smiling.
Yeah, it's good to smile. Even if you have to go like this. Rabbi Torsi talks about this. You know, Abraham Torsi said he was at a conference and he was sitting next to another psychiatrist. He's a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist was going like this. And Dr. Torsi said, what are you doing? And he said, it's a mitzvah to be makabeles kol ha'adam b'sever panim yafos, but I don't naturally smile. So I'm just trying to support myself a little bit because I recognize that it's important.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I also think you have to be careful that it's not a fake smile. You know, because some people have a smile, you look at them and you know they don't mean it.
That's the smile for your passport smile.
Or driver's license, huh?
Oh, hi, Jeffrey. Where's Jeffrey? Oh, no, there's a man who smiles. Come here, show us your pearly whites. Yeah, there we go. We're talking about the importance of smiling. That's a smile. That's a smile. Okay, guys, it's
Very
wonderful.
nice.
To Stacy's point, her point of her friend who leaves her with a smile, I feel the smiling in this room right now. I really do. Of amazing people who care about good things and care about each other. I really do feel that. All the way from Jerusalem.
Thank you,
And
Ally.
I'm not a natural smiler, so I tend to be a little more like, so I'm smiling from Jerusalem.
Yes.
Very nice.
You always
Thank you,
smile.
Allie, for wonderful
No, that's not
class.
true, Linda. It's
Well,
not
here
true.
you do. Here you do. With
I
us, you
tried,
do.
but I'm not a natural. It's not.
Thanks for a wonderful class,
Thank you,
Allie.
Ally.
Thank you, Sally.
Happy
It was
Tuesday.
great to
I'm
be
ready
here.
for my
Bye,
next small
everybody.
business mentor meeting. So I'm gonna get in touch with you because I'm getting moving.
I hear you.
Good luck. It was
Did you hear
great
me?
to see you all.
Yeah, I do.
All right, too.
So-
Okay. All right, goodbye,
Bye,
everybody.
Ally,
Bye, everybody.
thanks.
Bye.
Hi,
Happy
Ally.
Christmas, Beth.
Everybody have a great day.
Yeah,
You
smile,
too.
smile.
Go hug a tree.